most of us who have been in a relationship that ended and we didn't necessarily want it to end have sat and thought, should I go back to the relationship? Should I give it another chance? And that's the topic of today's video. Should I go back? I'm gonna give you 4 questions that are gonna help you decide when you're thinking about going back to a relationship that you've already closed the door on, if you should go back or not. And just basically think it through before you make any decisions. The purpose of these advice videos is to prepare us for making good, constructive, healthy decisions when it comes to dating. And sometimes going back to a relationship we've stepped away from isn't what's best for us. So hopefully these are going to help you think it through and make the right decision for your life. Now let's get into it. The first question you're going to want to ask yourself when deciding if you should go back to a relationship that ended is, why did the relationship end in the first place? This is where you're going to have to be extremely honest with yourself. You can even write it down, make a list if you need to. It's important to be very honest because a lot of the time when you break up with someone and move on, you tend to focus on all the good things that the relationship was and gloss over the bad things that the relationship wasn't. And when you're thinking about returning to a relationship where you might not have been operating from your best form or in a healthy space, it's important to have the facts of what the relationship was and why the relationship ended in total. Some people, when faced with this question, will think, well, I wasn't the one who ended the relationship. I didn't see any particular red flags or anything. And I would say to that is a reasoning enough in itself that you did not end the relationship. So I'll speak to that first. If you were broken up with and the person expressed to you that for whatever reason they no longer wanted to continue the relationship, that is something that you should really seriously consider before trying to get back into the relationship. You don't want it to come off as you're begging or you're pining or you're just trying to do whatever you can to get them back if they've already made it clear to you that they do not desire to be in a relationship. Doesn't matter if they had a legitimate reason or not. If they're telling you they do not want to be with you, don't let them tell you twice. That's just a good rule of thumb. Additionally, if the relationship did have issues, I'm not going to sit up here and list out a plethora of reasons. We're all adults. You can kind of piece together what would make you not need to be in a relationship, especially if any forms of abuse, whether it was emotional, physical, anything was at play. That is reason enough to not go back to the relationship under no circumstances. The first person that you need to advocate for when it comes to dating is yourself, first and foremost. If you're operating from a healthy space, you can bring your best self to the dating scene. If you are ignoring or accepting any forms of abuse, that is not okay. It would serve you to get some help, speaking to a professional and being able to reason through those feelings maybe before getting back into dating. It's not a sprint when it comes to finding a healthy, constructive relationship. You owe it to yourself to work on up here and in here before exposing yourself to another scenario. Another question that you're going to want to ask yourself when thinking about returning to a previous relationship is, what has changed? For yourself, I talked about, seeking out help and doing other things that positively pour into your life. This can be just spending some time alone, taking a huge step back from dating, learning your hobbies, learning the things that you like, and really honing in on your standards list so that you don't compromise on the things that you absolutely need in a relationship. On the other side, looking at the person that you're no longer with, what has changed in their life? For an example, if the relationship had a serious bone of contention where they did not take the best care of themselves, different things that kind of started out as a small problem but turned into a big issue? What has changed? Are they a person who manages their schedule a little bit better? Are they a person who takes a little bit better care of themselves? Are they a person that is actively working on overcoming some of the pitfalls that they face? And do you have proof of that? It's not just people telling you, oh, I've changed, I'm new, I'm this, I'm that. It's also, do you have the proof behind the actions of what they're saying when they say they've changed? If that's not there, I would strongly advise you not to immediately consider taking them back just off of what could be, and instead really try to see what they're actually bringing to the relationship. And if it's exactly what they brought previously, it's all about, once again, advocating for yourself. We all have things that are negotiables and non-negotiables. The sooner that you're able to hone in on those, the easier it will be to make decisions in dating instead of just jumping into a relationship, trying to accept everything and finding that you just can't. The third question that I would encourage you to ask yourself when thinking about returning to a past relationship is, how much time has passed? I think that it is generally a good rule of thumb, if you've dated someone for a year or more and then are considering getting back with them, to at least give yourself 3 to 6 months to really evaluate where the relationship went. Anything beyond that, I think you could take longer, but I think at least at the 3 to 6 month mark, you know that you've taken enough time to really process it. Leading up to those 3 months, you're basically trying to stop the bleeding with the pain and the shock and all the other emotions that come up from getting out of a relationship that lasted a year or more with someone. Even if there was a lot of bad, there can still be some emotional ties there, especially if there was some trauma in the mix. You want to give yourself a good amount of time to really calm down and release a lot of those negative feelings and emotions and really heal from what's going on. Some people, it takes them much longer, especially depending on how long the relationship was. They can get over things a little bit easier depending on how they deal with trauma and sadness and other aspects of life. Another good thing that time does is it brings clarity. After a certain amount of time can pass, your feelings about that person can change seriously. At the 2 month mark, you might be so sure, so sure that this person is your soulmate, that you're supposed to be with this person, that you guys will find your way back to each other. But then maybe after being away from them for, let's say, 6 months, you might be thinking, actually, I've had the time to really evaluate what I want for my life, and they just weren't bringing that. I don't think that we are meant to be together, and I'm glad that we are now separated. You can find yourself switching several times within the healing process just because you're trying to come back to a calm state where you're not being weighed down by heavy negative emotions. So it's important to give yourself enough time to process that. I don't want it to be that you were chasing to get back in the relationship and potentially do get back in the relationship only to find the same problems are there, and now you no longer even have the feelings there. And my final question that I would ask, if you're thinking about getting back into a relationship that has passed, is, what does your intuition tell you? I'm going to speak to my praying girlies. If you are a person of faith, I believe that you should consult God in all matters and all facets of your life. And what is God telling you when you're praying? When you pray, you're going to get an answer. You might not necessarily agree with the answer, but you're going to get an answer. And I think fostering that open relationship with God where you can come to Him, understanding that God is not judging you, but He wants what's best for you, you will get the answer that best serves you, even if it's not what your heart necessarily wants to hear in the moment. So if you're consulting God and you're praying and you're hearing a specific answer, I would say 100% go with that answer. God is not going to lead you astray. With those who might not be of faith or maybe don't have that relationship yet where they can hear God clearly, your intuition is a gift given for all of us that helps keep us out of harm's way. If that feeling in the pit of your gut just says, you know what, I really want to be with him, but in my stomach, I don't know, I just feel like I shouldn't, Don't force it. Don't try to talk to it. Don't try to reason through it. If you have a feeling in the pit of your stomach that's telling you do not go back to this person, do not go back to this person. You don't know where that feeling is coming from, but they're telling you all the right things and they really do seem like they've changed. Do not go back to that person. Trust your intuition. Trust it, trust it, trust it. And finally, if you can't use any of the 2 previous methods, listen to your friends and family who care about you the most. Family is the bigger one because those are the ones who care about you even when you're not behaving your best, even when you're not making all the right choices. They're the ones that you lean back on to still help and support you. And I do recognize some people don't have that sort of relationship with their family, and then that's where friends would come into play. But friends, you have to be very cautious because you can have some friends who they mean well, but they're not necessarily giving you the best advice. Case in point, you can have friends who thought you and your ex were really good together, but you being in the relationship know all of the different things that you faced, and maybe you didn't tell the whole picture to your friends, or maybe they just didn't get a holistic look. They'll encourage you to do what makes you happy. But sometimes, even if you think what would make you happy is getting back with that person, that's not the right thing to do. It's important to, in any voice that you're listening to when consulting with them about if you should get back with a person or not, make sure that they're coming from a place of genuine concern and they're not worried about hurting your feelings or telling you something that you don't like, but instead are going to tell it to you straight up exactly as you need to hear it to make sure that you're not making any mistakes. So those are the 4 questions that I think you should ask yourself when you're thinking about going back to a relationship that has previously ended, in order to really think it through and make the best decision for your life. And if you have any follow-up questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to clarify anything. Or if you are going through this situation and you're debating on getting back with someone and just need that big sister commentary, someone to bounce ideas off of, go ahead and drop a comment as well, or you can hit me in my DM. Please make sure to like this video if you like the content and subscribe so that I can make more for you guys. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye.